freeze, have you checked Quran? Please, do you understand what is inside Sharia law? Now because I know you are a learned person. If this makes sense to you as a learned person, then something is wrong. Let's go.
Mo kí gbogbo wa nílé lóko lẹ́yìn odi, mo kí wa kí wa kú bó jẹ́ ọjọ́ ṣe rí, mo kẹ́yìn ìyá, mo kẹ́yìn bàbá, mo kí ẹ̀gbọ́n, mo kí àbúrò. Èmi ọmọ yín olólùfẹ́ yín, ayé ọpẹ́ yọ ṣe yọ lọ́dọ̀ tí yín náà ní agbára lọ́wọ́ àṣẹ̀dá, ayé ọpẹ́ máa yọ fún wa lórí ọmọ, lórí ìdáwọ́lé wa. Òun láyé ọpẹ́ òun ló máa fi máa yọ fún wa. Kí ló fa gbàsgbó láàrin Daddy Freeze àti MS Bàbá? A dúpẹ́ lọ́dọ̀ Elédùmarè wípé àná kò tún dàbí èní lọ́dọ̀ àwọn ọmọ kóòtù òjíire. Mo ní àrídájú wípé tí àwọn ancestors wa tó ń kọjá lọ tán bá rírú àwọn ẹ̀rí báyìí, wọn ò ní kó wa ṣìnà. Tán bá rírú àwọn ẹ̀rí báyìí, wọn ò ní kó wa ṣìnà. Wọ́n fi bread, wọ́n fi wá kó wa lómi ọbẹ̀ jẹ ni. Àwa ọmọ kóòtù òjíire a máa bọ́ nínú oko ẹrú, ó ń ṣọmọ olókùú bẹ́ẹ̀ ni, a ní sín pẹ̀lú oko ẹ̀. Tó bá wo fídíò yìí débi tó parí sí, o ò ní lè rí nǹkan tí MS Bàbá àti Daddy Freeze tán fi ń ṣe gbàsgbó. Torí brother wa tí mo kọ́kọ́ fẹ́ gbé wá yìí, àwọn nǹkan wo tó jẹ́ wípé tó bá jẹ́ ibẹ̀ nìran wa náà fi wá sí, I'm pretty sure wípé ìgbà tí China wà níbi tó wà kò sí lójú kan náà, àwa náà ò lè sí lójú kan náà ni. Bó kàkà kó jẹ́ pé wọ́n ní ká mójútó nǹkan tiwa, nǹkan nìkan ló ní ká lọ máa mójútó. Wọ́n ní ká máa lọ sílé kéwú, wọ́n ní ká máa lọ sí Bible study. Tó bá jẹ́ irú èyí tí brother wa yìí tó ń ṣe yìí, tó fi hàn wá yìí, òun ni a mójútó, òun náà jẹ́ ká mójútó láti ilẹ̀. Nǹkan tá à ń sọ ìkọlà máa sọ. Bọ̀ ó bà ní kò tí ì bàjẹ́, ó ń ṣọmọ olókùú bẹ́ẹ̀ ni, a ní sí pẹ̀lú òkú ẹ̀. Ẹ máa bá mi ká lọ.
Kindly subscribe to YouTube channel and follow on Facebook page at Dr. Zabby's Talk Show.
A lè ṣiṣẹ́ ní àṣeyege, ṣùgbọ́n tí èèyàn bá ṣe àwárí ara ẹ̀, àwọn ìṣòro tí a bá ń kojú à nílé mọ̀ bá ṣe máa rí ọ̀nà àbáyọ sí wọn. So a máa sọ̀rọ̀ nípa àwọn nǹkan tá à ń pè ní energy tàbí agbára ní èdè Yorùbá, a lè tún lè ní okun náà. A máa sọ̀rọ̀ nípa ẹ̀ pẹ̀lú ìlànà tó òyìnbó. In the Western education system, we are going to talk about the concept of energy. Then a tún máa sọ̀rọ̀ nípa ẹ̀ ní ti ìlànà tí ní Ifá. Kí ni Ifá sọ nípa iṣẹ́ okun àti agbára, àwọn odùfá tí ó sọ̀rọ̀ níbẹ̀. Then tá bá ti sọ yẹn, wọ́n bẹ̀rẹ̀ ní ti òyìnbó yẹn ni pé tòyìnbó yẹn èèyàn máa kọ́kọ́ lè relate pẹ̀lú nǹkan tá à ń sọ láti bẹ̀rẹ̀. So in Western education, energy is defined in terms of change. In terms of change. So that's a beautiful way to look at what energy is. So change yẹn ni ìyípadà. So tá bá wo tá bá sínú Ifá nsìn, so concept ilé ìsìn máa wúlò. Tá bá ti òyìnbó sì wọ́n ní ìṣirò tó lè fi sọ kìíní dáadáa, tó yẹ pé wọ́n lè wá lò fún gbogbo ìmọ̀. Àwọn ìtọ́ ní work done tó ti kọ́kọ́ ṣàlàyé tẹ́lẹ̀, iṣẹ́ làwọn máa fi ń ṣe tiwọn. Tí iṣẹ́ yẹn náà sì yẹn wà limited to physics, nǹkan tá lè rí. Wọ́n lè gbé ti concept energy nù physics kó wá gbé lọ sí ti arts, kó gbé lọ biology, kó máa gbé kiri bẹ́ẹ̀ yẹn. Ó lè ṣiṣẹ́ ní biology, but kò lè wọ àwọn ẹ̀kọ́ ìmí tó pọ̀ jaburata, kò lè ṣe lò níbẹ̀. Torí pé they are only looking at energy from the physical perspective. So it is a narrow scope. It has a narrow scope. So, but energy has a lot of dimensions. But all of them, they still boil down to the concept of change. So in Ifá, if you come to Ifá, we define energy, still working with the formula that energy is the capacity to do work. Energy is capacity to cause change. The capacity to cause change, that's defining energy in terms of change. So we define energy this way. So this is how we define energy in Ifá science. So nǹkan tí mo sọ sí pé we define energy as change. Change is nǹkan tí tó wà láàrin. This one is just showing that the clockwise movement of clock change time. Another way to write this one is the double infinity symbol. So this is how we define energy. Kí ni la fi máa ń define energy? Double infinity. That's tá bá mú 8 we call 8 in Ifa education, we call it Ọ̀rúnmìlà number. So if you take that 8, if we transform it, if we find this dual, tá bá wá opposite ẹ̀, tá bá yí padà, á fún wa ní á di infinity. Mo ṣàlàyé yẹn ní àná. So tá bá pa méjì papọ̀, á fún wa ní 0. A máa ń pè é ní Ifá 0. Nǹkan tó lè kọ́ dúró fún ni change, or that Ouroboros symbol, that snake symbol tí mo ṣàlàyé. Màá tún gbé dragon mi wá sí. So tá bá wo eléyìí sí 0 náà ni, ṣùgbọ́n a fi change sí ni. Change wà lára ẹ̀, that direction wà níbẹ̀. Bí the cycle is it talks about change that's like a planet revolving. So it's saying that change is the only constant in the universe. So we just write the normal 0, then we put that symbol, that arrow on it. That's because in the universe, time flows in the forward direction, along that direction. That's how the clockwise. That's the clockwise. Time flows along the clockwise direction in this universe. So that's what. So we just see that energy. We define energy with change. So think about energy. That's when you can think about any change. Without energy, there's no change. So we define energy this way. So we simply say that energy is this. Energy is the foundation of everything. Is the basics. So this is how I came about the. So I explained this one yesterday when I was talking about. But tí wọ́n ń ṣàlàyé àwọn Ouroboros obìrìtì gbé ṣe get this symbol for change. I call it Ifá 0. So if you take Ọ̀rúnmìlà number is 8. If you add composite, that's if you add the tá bá mú papọ̀ pẹ̀lú opposite ẹ̀, ó máa cancel ara. It's like plus and minus infinity. So it's going to give us 0. But this 0, if you just it's different from the normal 0 that we use in mathematics. This one stands for energy. So it's like taking electron and its opposite. The opposite of electron is positron. Physics, ó máa cancel ara wọn, ó máa emit radiation. Gbígbà tí èèyàn fi life wire méjì positive negative tó máa fi kọ́ra wọn máa ṣe pa. Bí electron àti radiation bọ́ọ̀ ṣe máa rí nìyẹn. They are going to annihilate each other. It is called pair production in physics, as I said yesterday. That energy that it gives off, energy to give off yẹn gangan la máa fi ń define any physical quantity nínú Ifá science. That we define everything in Ifá science in terms of energy. It's an energy-based system. It's energy-based science. It's different from Western science that they define something in terms of physical, what they can see. It's reductionistic in nature. In African science is spiritual, is spirit-based, energy-based. So we define everything in terms of spirit or Olódùmarè. So that double infinity symbol, you can also write it this way. Double infinity symbol, you can write it this way. You can just write 0 and put double. We call it Ifá infinity as well. Put the Ifá infinity at the base, or we can just write it this way. So we just put the arrow there. So these are different ways of writing Ifá 0 or energy. So we are simply saying that this reality that we have, that it is literally made up of nothing. Not that is 0 or energy. That is what we are saying. We are saying everything is energy. Everything. This reality is not is not exactly the way we are looking at it this way. It's just a simulation. Some people call it illusion. So you're saying it's not the real world. The real world is in the non-physical realm. That's the realm of energy. So this one here is just a product, or is a reflection or manifestation of that realm of energy. So that is philosophy, a core aspect of Ifa philosophy, African philosophy, as distinct from Western philosophy, philosophy that is reductionistic in nature. So I'm going to upload the video. Foundation of all in African science. Energy is everything. So we have in African Ifa now has a good, all these Ifa codes. They are is the language of energy. And language, there is the language of energy now. They speak in terms of energy, as is different from Western. All fields of knowledge, they are energy. Physics, all fields of knowledge, they are language. They are languages. Physics is a language. Law is a language. All of them, because they all have their lingos. Mathematics is also a language. Economics is a language. So they have their lingos, their specific perspective or lens of looking at reality or at anything, depending on what they are studying there. So in Ifa, energy is the language. So all these Odifa, the 256 Odifa, the 16 major ones, they are language of energy. Àwọn èdè agbára tàbí èdè agbára la ní a lè pè àwọn èdè kan tí a lè rí. So the language of codes or energy, that's what they are. So if we want to talk about work, what is work? So I've defined what is energy in Ifa science, in African science. Energy is the foundation of all, or spirit. You can also see spirit in the religious, cultural context. So energy is the foundation of everything. Energy is everything. Compared to Western science, they say energy is the capacity to do work, or the capacity to cause a change. So their own is only limited to the realm of physical sciences like chemistry, physics, because they don't regard energy as the foundation of everything. There are some scientists, some chemists, physicists that also try to, and philosophers, they try to use energy as the basic unit of reality, the way we do it here in Africa. This man, Oswald, was a Nobel laureate. He was a Nobel laureate. He had a Nobel laureate in chemistry. So he wanted to Ostwald. Their cognition when you come up, his name is Ostwald. There are a number of them that they try to develop Western science using energy as the foundation. That energy is everything, the way we do here in Africa. But that was in the sometime in the late 19th century stroke early 20th century. So they are trying to develop energy-based approach to this to science. So ìgbà tí wọ́n wá ń ṣe iṣẹ́ yìí ní ọwọ́, wọ́n wá rí pé wọn ò rí, ìgbà tó lọ ṣe ìdánwò ẹ̀, they went to do the experiment. Wọn ò rí nǹkan tí wọ́n máa fi èsì ìdánwò yẹn tó máa fi gbé nǹkan tó sọ lẹ́yìn. They did not see any experimental proof to support their theory or their hypothesis. So that was when the idea of it is called energeticism. For people that want to read more about it. So if you type energeticism on Google or ChatGPT, you can read more about the history of energeticism. That when European scientists they try to use energy as a unit of reality, as the fundamental aspect of it. That's that's African science. African science is energy based. So when they now did this, they could not get any experimental proof. Their own is ether. Ether is what they use as their own. So even though I don't really like their own concept of ether, it doesn't have. They don't have good mathematics of it unless we come to Africa. So they say they could not get any experimental proof for energeticism, for energy-based approach to science then. So they had to ditch the idea for quantum mechanics. at that time too, they developing this German scientist. What is it called? So he developed. I'm going to remember. Let me just Planck, Max Planck. So Max Planck came up with. He started laying the foundation for what we call quantum physics today, quantum mechanics. Quantum mechanics ní ìmọ̀ ìjìnlẹ̀ àwọn nǹkan tí a lè fojú, àwọn nǹkan tí ó kéré tó jẹ́ pé àti rí wọn kò rọrùn, àwọn nǹkan kékeré, àwọn nǹkan tí they are still physical things but they are very 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 tiny things. So Max Planck was one of the major scientists that laid the foundation for this field of science. So when they were trying to develop the idea of what is everything made up of, what is the fundamental unit of reality, so some people said it was energy. So those are the energeticists. They also have another name that the energetics. You can also call it, because we also call it energetics. So it's also called energetics. So they try to develop energy as the foundation of reality then. So when they now got to the lab, they did not see any experimental proof. So at that time, Max Planck too came up with the atomic idea, the quantum idea. Max Planck, Albert Einstein. This man also all this Erwin Schrödinger, what is it? Paul Dirac. So they also, they came up with different theories saying that reality is. Theodora, welcome to the program. Thank you for the support. Please let us share the live and power tap. So all these scientists, they also why there are two camps. One camp is saying that energy is the foundation of reality. Energy is everything. So energy is the unit of reality. Those ones that are called energeticism or energetics. This Oswald was a key because this chemist was a chemist. He was a Nobel laureate. He won the Nobel Prize for chemistry then. There are other ones in èmi wà ní ìmọ̀ ìṣirò, mathematics, àmì ìmọ̀ye, philosophy. Àwọn òyìnbó ni wọ́n. So àwọn camp méjì ni wọ́n. Àwọn kan ní pé energy tá a máa ń pè ní okun ní gbogbo ilé ayé, that reality is made up of energy. Everything is energy. Àwọn camp àwọn yẹn nìyẹn. Then there are other camp that said everything was made up of atom. The atom is the unit of is the fundamental unit of is the basic unit of reality. So those are the atomists. Among the atomists then was Max Planck. Which camp are they? I'm in the camp of Ifa. Both of them, they are not actually right. They are not right. These energetics, they don't have the. I read the papers. They don't really understand what they are talking about. So I'm not in any of the camp. I'm in the camp of Ifa, African science. That's why all these things they learn them in Africa. So but don't mathematics this energy they think they are looking for experimental proof of energy. You cannot prove spirit. You cannot get experimental proof of spirit. The foundation of reality is not experimental physics. It's not science. It is mathematics. They are mathematics in Ifa. Because reality is not. Reality itself is not what we call reality is just a product of our brain. It's not real. It's not real at the fundamental. It's just an illusion. It's a simulation. Now you want to test a simulation, like you're in a dream. You want to test that in a lab. How does that make any sense? You cannot see an experimental proof of that, but you can only know it mathematically. You cannot prove it in a lab. You can only know it experientially. When you get to the non-physical realm, then you can see it with your face. But you can use mathematics. That mathematics is transcendental. So mathematics is the foundation of reality. It's not the Western mathematics, the one in Ifa. All those Odu Ifa, because those are energy. So that is mathematics. So that is the camp where I am. So both energeticism and quantum theory, the two of them, they when it comes to the foundation, the beginning science at the beginner level, they are good theories, but they are not. Quantum theory is still better. But when you now want to go deep, the two of them, they are going to break down when you go beyond the physical. So energeticism, they could not get any proof. So when they now started seeing proof of the atomics, they started seeing proof of quantum theory. Quantum theory came up. So Paul Dirac and people, so they got experimental proof for quantum theory. They got some of the experimental proof for quantum theory when they did the double slit experiment. So they found that was one of the major experimental proof of quantum theory, the theory that reality is made up of atoms. They also got another experiment when they did the Galak experiment. It's called Galak experiment, Stephen Galak experiment. So when they did that experiment, they also got another proof of a concept in quantum mechanics that we call spin. So that was how quantum mechanics won the day. Until today, the Europeans still regard quantum entities as the basis of reality. That is Western science. Now, if you now come to Africa is this energeticism is just like an attempt to understand African science. So African science is energy based, but that energy is Odu. That energy is not something you go to the lab to test. It's Odu. Is an entity, is a living system on our own. It's not something that you test in lab. It's something that you know axiomatically, mathematically. So once you understand the right mathematics in Ifa, then you can now build the science, all kinds of knowledge on that foundation. So Ifa, African science works at the foundation level, at the level of our consciousness, thought, and perception, because that is what actually generates what we perceive as reality. So that was what I was explaining to this guy that came yesterday. God is able. Then he was asking for proof of Ifa. You cannot prove Ifa in a lab because it works at the level of your consciousness, your perception and thoughts. So you can only get the knowledge mathematically, axiomatically. So once you study those Ifa codes, you see that they are following mathematical patterns. So that is the foundation of reality. It is that one that now gives birth to what you even call proof in the first place. What you call proof in the first place has its own energy. Proof also has an entity behind it. There's a spirit behind what you call proof. That is what Ifa will teach you. There's an energy behind what you call proof. That is what Ifa will teach you. Ifa will teach you the codes to use to develop the lab where you even want to test, get the proof of something. That is what Ifa will show. So you can only understand all this mathematically and using axioms. So that is energeticism. So if you now come to Africa, in African science, we define. So this is energy according to Rookie 360. Welcome to the program. So this is energy in African science. If you study papers on energeticism, I read the papers, so they are not well formulated constructs because they are trying to prove it in the lab, and even the mathematics is not. Yes, they wrote zero somewhere from conservation of energy, but it's not correct. There's no other language apart from Ifa. If you want to understand science at the foundational level, Ifa is the language that you can use. Divination system is what you cannot use any other language, because that is the foundation. That is where all knowledge came from. That is where all knowledge came from. So if you don't use that language, you just be beating about the bush. So we are going to see that Western science, they are going to change their paradigm very soon. Once they've got to quantum era now. Quantum era is science of the small, the extremely small. So they're now entering era of things that you cannot see, the non-physical. So they are talking about dark energy, dark matter. In Africa, we call those ones, we just call them energy or their spirits. So dark energy, dark matter, those are things that people have always known existed in Africa. In fact, if you go to Isheshe festival, they use they do ritual, what they call dark matter in dark matter in science, Western science, is just They know there is something there, but they cannot measure it, effect, physical science. Chinese, because they value their isheshe. So even if the Westerners don't talk about what they are doing, because they're over 1 billion, so they know their power because because of isheshe, their cultural practices, that they do science in their native language. So all the research institution, the journals who publish any paper, they develop everything themselves. They don't need the Westerners. So this is the kind of attitude that we Africans also need to adopt. We Africans are over 1.4 billion. Yes, over 1.4 billion in population. So we just see how we can all work together. Each culture has their own area of specialization. African cultures, we use the same kind of science generally. African philosophy, African science is if you study Ifa, study other divination system in African culture, they are all based on spirit, is energy based science. That is what they do, all those Odu. So African philosophy, African cultures, they have a general way of thinking. So if we also try to make sure all our research institutions, we try to develop.
To be very honest, out of Christianity and Islam makes way more sense. You can apply Quranic principles and have a successful society.
We all heard Daddy Freeze. He said Islam makes way more sense, that if you can apply Quranic principles, we are going to have a very good society. Is that really so? Daddy Freeze, have you checked Quran? Do you understand what is inside Sharia law? Now let me read some of the Islamic principles for you and tell me if this makes sense to you, because I know you are a learned person. If this makes sense to you as a learned person, then something is wrong. Let's go. To leave Islam, once they start applying Islamic principle, you cannot leave Islam. If you want to leave Islam, what is the penalty? It's death by beheading. Atheism, if you just want to live your life, don't want to believe in anything, is death by beheading. Drinking alcohol once or twice, 40 or 80 lashes of cane. Drinking alcohol 3 or 4 times, death by beheading. Adultery, if married, death by stoning. Adultery, if not married, 100 lashes and 1 year banishment. Grape, if married, death by stoning. Grape, if not married, 100 lashes and 1 year banishment. Fighting against the Muslim jihadists, death by beheading. Who are the Muslim jihadists? The Fulanis. If you want to fight against them, it is death. The penalty is death by beheading. Because once they start applying Islamic or Quranic principle, all of you must accept Islam. It's a must. Let's continue. Blasphemy, death by beheading. You saw what happened in Niger State yesterday, where a woman was stoned to death for blasphemy. Once you start applying Quranic principle, there won't be peace anywhere. If you know you love where they apply Quranic principle, it's either you relocate to the north or you relocate to Saudi Arabia. But let me continue. Waging war against Allah or Muhammad, death by beheading. Causing mischief or corruption in the land, death by beheading, crucifixion, amputation or exile from land. Stealing, first offense, right hand amputated. Stealing, second offense, left leg amputated. Stealing, third offense, left hand amputated. Stealing, fourth offense, right leg amputated. Stealing, fifth offense, death by beheading. Burning or soiling the Quran, death by beheading. Rejecting the Quran, death by beheading. Not paying zakat tax, death by beheading. Abandoning prayer, death by beheading. Associating partner with Allah, death by beheading. Before you can come out and say something like this, you must have gone through the Sharia law, what the Quranic principles, what it says, if you want to follow the Quranic principle. Because Islam is all about conquest and land grabbing. Once you want to allow Sharia in your land, all of you must be Muslim. Mind you, this Allah is Arab deity. Allah is not Ọlọ́run Olódùmarè. No, Allah is different from the God of the Bible. And the God of the Bible and the God in the Quran, both of them are not Ọlọ́run Olódùmarè. Because you want Arab law, you want to enforce. We are not Arabs. If you know you want Quranic principles, then it's either you relocate to the north or you relocate to Saudi Arabia or Dubai. Don't worry, just tell them you are a Muslim. You'll be given free house, free accommodation, they'll give you everything you need, okay? But in Southwest, in Yoruba land, we don't want anything Quranic principle because it is a taboo in our land. Before I go, let me give you just one Quran verse. Quran chapter 9 verse 29, it says, "Fight those who do not believe in Allah and the last day, nor comply with what Allah and his messenger have forbidden, nor embrace the religion of truth from among those who were given the scripture, until they pay the tax, willingly, submitting, fully humbled." Meaning that if you are not a Muslim, once they start using Quranic principle, the Muslim is a must for the Muslims to be fighting you, or you'll be paying jizya. There is a tax, a security fee. They call it jizya. You on your own land, though, you'll be paying money to them, money, security fee to live on your land. Before I go, Islam is not a religion. Islam is a totalitarian ideology masquerading as religion. The aim and objective is to do what? Is to take over your land, subjugate you, conquer you, and turn you to slaves. Thank you.
Mo rò pé gbogbo wa la ti gbọ́ nǹkan tí Daddy Freeze sọ, a dẹ̀ ti gbọ́ nǹkan tí MS Baba sọ. Ojú wo lẹ fi wò ó lọ́dọ̀ titi yín? Báwo ló ṣe rí? Ẹ jẹ́ ká pàdé nínú comment section bó bá ṣe jẹ́ lọ́dọ̀ titi yín náà. Bọ̀ ṣẹ́yìn dúpẹ́ tàbí ẹ̀ dúpẹ́, tí ààyè ọpẹ́ yẹn bá yọ wípé lójú ayé wa yìí a máa bọ́ nínú oko ẹrú, ẹ fílẹ̀ nínú comment section. Ẹ má gbàgbé láti fi comment tí yín sílẹ̀, láti like, láti share. Tó bá jẹ́ nígbà àkọ́kọ́, ẹ má gbàgbé láti subscribe. Ire o, ire gbangba. Bye for now, one love.